Alright, so this is the third or fourth commentary I've made where I talk about Kamen Rider, and that's definitely something. So Kumo made a video where he got several people together as a way to discuss why they don't like Kamen Rider, and Neko Koda took issue with that video and commentated on it, to which Kumo responded back, and his video wasn't particularly good, so I'm here to say why. And before I begin, I know that Kumo claimed in an update that he would be deleting his channel at the end of May, so I did end up debating with myself on whether I wanted to make this video or not, but I'm writing this in July, so covering the video is still fair game to me. Also, I'm only covering some of the points in this video, since sometimes Kumo goes on tangents about stuff Koda did outside of the commentary, and in those instances, I genuinely have no idea what is going on, and I'm mostly just interested in how Kumo argues Koda's video, so yeah, let's begin.
Wowie zowie, Neko Koda is bullying a small commentator.
I sure do love when a video causes me to go deaf.
Oh boy! Today we're going to be talking about Kumo, and if you don't know who Kumo is, he's a small commentator and thinks he's the next Chris Hansen.
Wow, Koda, that's a pretty bold statement. Care to elaborate?
When he's more like Chet Goldstein. Recently, he did a video called Commentary.
Oh, I guess fucking not.
Because everything needs to be elaborated on. No, but seriously though, Koda isn't even making arguments yet. She's just introducing the topic of the video here. So for you to go like, elaborate, is kind of unnecessary towards what are essentially just throwaway lines. Now, I think I know what the counter will be here. Oh, you're taking a joke too seriously. But like, there's still a point there. Elaboration, please, has been a point in commentaries for God knows how long, so the point still stands.
What the dog doing?
Now these next two sections, I actually like. I think MG and Kumo both do a good job demonstrating their points. They're calm, straight to the point, and make good, well thought out arguments against Lolicon and Carmen's actions. If the entire video was like this, I really wouldn't have an issue.
If it was made exactly how I wanted it, I wouldn't be complaining right now. Oh, but unfortunately, that's incorrect because I did make it exactly how you wanted it made, Koda. In fact, this time, you were on it. I remade the video.
Oh wow, it's almost as if the video Koda is covering was made before your remake. So your remake cannot really apply to the video that you're covering, since it did not exist when Koda was making her commentary.
What you know about?
Hello everyone, my name is Janky Shining, and today I'm going to be featuring on Kumo-san's channel talking about Kamen Rider. Recently there's been screenshots going out of Carmen saying that she likes non-consensual sex in fanworks, saying that it's okay, and saying that CP is morally great, and actually fucking into it as well. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. That's fucked. You're sick.
Ah boy, here we go.
So after we get well thought out and structured arguments, we get this janky guy coming in Leafy clone style.
Well, I guess Janky does have stills on screen, but his style can still be compared to Leafy's here. For example, he still has gameplay footage, he curses several times, and he is, you know, making a commentary video. Leafy was known for making commentaries that lacked argumentative substance, and yet you're just gonna dismiss this comparison because of avatar stills? Also, the text here is in of itself nitpicking, since it's focusing on something that Koda only briefly said, and usually I don't care about nitpicking, but this will tie into a point that I'll make later.
Like, I can agree, Lolicon is gross, but simply calling it gross isn't an argument.
Oh man, if only I had more time to sit down with Janky and tell him to redo his entire part. There were a ton of complications here, so I'll go ahead and name some of them. First off, Janky's 14, and I didn't want to ask a 14-year-old to explain in the video what non-con is.
Was Koda supposed to know about this? I'll expand upon this point later, but my main issue here is Koda was saying that Janky's point wasn't exactly an argument. She didn't want elaboration for what non-con was in this moment, so your point is overall misplaced. She does mention non-con later, but not exactly here. Furthermore, Janky was the one who brought up CP in the video, so yeah, it would kind of be his job to argue, and Koda's request of actually have an argument isn't unreasonable here.
Second off, Janky was Gazzy's replacement, and towards the end of producing the project, Gazzy had dropped off the project. That has already been covered in its own video, and me and Gazzy are on better terms now. And before we continue, I just want to go ahead and get this out there. Maybe I need to educate Koda, and maybe I need to educate the audience. I don't know if you guys understand how difficult it is to manage a project with multiple creators on it. Not even just making sure they get their parts turned into you, having to edit segments for some people, having to provide them with receipts, and oh dear god, digging up receipts for people is such a tedious task. Having to make sure you're available as much as possible so in case they have any questions they can come to you. Having to check up on them, making sure they're getting shit done. On top of that, being a highly high school student like myself, having a fucking life, having to also record your own segments for your own video, having to edit those, making sure you have your research, dealing with recent developments and arguments among the participants and myself, having Kamen Rider fans stalk you, call me Nil having schizophrenic tantrums, one of Nil's friends lashing out at me because I didn't tell them something that I told to another person, having the paranoia that someone was gonna get wind of my project or someone on the project was gonna leak something, having to investigate some of my participants to make sure none of them were leaking anything. Now, with all of that context you've been missing, Koda's video is now gonna sound very nitpicky going forward.
And this is what made me want to cover the video in the first place. Cause when Koda said that one of the people in your video did not actually have arguments, maybe she was onto something. This entire tangent is nothing more than excuses for why the original video was the way it was. Not only that, but this is essentially what is known as gish galloping, a logical fallacy where several points are made in rapid succession regardless of their validity. And like I said, this is a logical fallacy, as in not exactly ideal. And sure, maybe there were reasons for why your video turned out the way it did, but that excuses nothing. In fact, there are potentially several measures that could have been taken for these developments. For example, simply delaying or postponing your project, or letting the people in your video write scripts, or checking up on their work. But no, according to Kumo, quality control does not exist. Furthermore, with all that context missing, yeah, the context that Koda doesn't even know about, and she couldn't even have known about it either. And you end this awful interjection with using nitpicky as a buzzword. To which, no, she is not nitpicking. Not here or throughout the rest of the video. Nitpicking would be focusing on details and smaller things, like if I point out how something is edited, or if I point out how my subject stutters. That would be nitpicking since my focus isn't the points themselves. Whereas here, the focus is the lack of argumentation, and throughout the rest of the video, the focus is what's being said. But no, I get it. The real definition of nitpicking is anything and everything that you don't like. Yes, words can be used wherever we want without consequences.
What Kumo and MG did are good arguments against it. This isn't.
Okay, if I can hit Koda for a second, this wording implies that what Janky said was an argument, because it is technically being compared to what MG and Kumo's arguments were, but earlier you said that wasn't an argument. But to hit the text in front of me, does Koda really need to show the good arguments? This video isn't focusing on the good arguments, it's focusing on the bad ones. That's what commentaries tend to do. And Koda only briefly mentions the good arguments, so this shouldn't really be a problem.
Not to mention, he's bringing up non-con and relating it to CP.
Well, Koda, that's because they do have something in common. They both have to do with people who aren't consenting or can't consent.
When non-con is a sexual fantasy done between consenting adults.
Oh no, did I leave that there? Okay, so despite Koda's lack of sources, that's still a pretty big problem. But Kumo does address this, right?
And throughout the video, it's a common theme, and it's made very apparent that most of Carmen's fetishes have to do with people not consenting or being unable to consent.
But how does this apply to the definition of non-con that Koda gives?
When non-con is a sexual fantasy done between consenting adults. Let me repeat myself. Non-con is a sexual fantasy done between consenting adults.
I'm gonna kill your parents.
You can find it weird and creepy all you like, but if it's done between consenting adults, what's the issue? Non-con doesn't even involve kids. It's a form of BDSM.
Okay, Koda, let's just go ahead and ignore it. Let's just let it fly over our heads. It's not at all something to be concerned about that someone that jacks off to kids also gets off to rape porn. Yeah, sorry I have to spell everything out for you, Koda.
Okay, so non-con is rape porn. Are you actually gonna prove this? Are you actually gonna show me why you're right? Because part of commentaries in general is proving why your stance is correct, and why your subject is wrong. And that's not helped by how Koda and you have two completely different definitions. But no, evidence is like quality control. It doesn't exist!
What you know about?
What up, everybody? It's your mom's favorite boyfriend, RDH Vortex here.
Never pass on the opportunity to shit on somebody such as Kamen Rider. He, yeah, that's right, I said he, is a fucking loser that sounds like a goddamn robot with that retarded-ass voice changer. Like, if you're gonna try to sound like a girl, at least do a decent job at it. You just sound like a robot. Like, seriously.
Yay, transphobia. I'm gonna love talking about this.
Keep in mind, while Vortex was saying all that outlandish shit, I edited it into meme format so that you wouldn't have to take it seriously. seriously. Hopefully my editing gave you the tone that I wasn't taking him seriously, and likely nobody else in the video took any of that seriously.
Kumo, you do know about the context of this video, right? You do know that Koda straight up said that some people in the video are capable of making good content, right? So of course Koda's expectation would be to take this seriously. Furthermore, transphobia is usually seen as a bad thing, so to point it out would be perfectly valid, regardless of whether it was a meme or not. And furthermore, transphobia isn't really a joke. This person is not how they identify is something that transphobes actually say. Like, ever heard of the facts don't care about your feelings argument? And I'm not even saying that transphobia cannot be the basis of a joke, but when it's just like this blatant and it's just, oh, this person isn't how they identify, like what Vortex is doing here, then yeah, of course people will not be able to tell that's a joke. And believe it or not, some people can put a bunch of memes into a video and still make a critical video. For example, Dumbsville, someone who puts a bunch of meme edits into his reviews, is still making reviews.
For the first 30 minutes of this thing, people are just talking to each other. For the next hour, it's Chloe randomly meandering around and then crying about Jesus or whatever. All these half-baked characters are stuck on this plane, most likely because they want to save budget. And then the movie goes, oh, here's a final action scene, I guess. Yeah, fuck this shit. This movie feels like a first act stretched out to 2 hours. Speaking of characters, they're all really terrible. These characters on the plane are obnoxious. They're either out-of-touch stereotypes of what people think a, for example, drug abuser is, or they're an old person who is funny, or they're a short person because that's funny.
Nobody's laughing!
And the other characters who are the main characters, by the way, aren't much better. Chloe's mom is a wholesome woman with no depth. The bimbo flight attendant Nick Cage's fucking has no depth. Buck Williams has no depth or personality. You can guess Chloe's entire arc the moment you meet her, which means she also has no depth. And Nicolas Cage, the funny meme actor you came to see, also has, you guessed it, zero depth.
Now tell me, Kumo, was all of that haha funny meme jokes? Because to me, despite the editing, it sounds like real criticism.
Do I endorse the shit Vortex said? No, fucking of course not. Koda knows my views on trans people.
Well, it still was. Actually, no, I can save this for later as well.
What you know about
Attacking somebody's actions and attacking someone as a person are two different things. Criticizing Kai Weiss for beating his girlfriend is different than attacking him for being black. I wouldn't be okay with someone calling Kai the N-word in the same way I'm not okay with Vortex being transphobic to Carmen here. But why should we care what pronouns we use for bad people? Oh yeah? When was the last time you misgendered Kai Weiss, or EDP, or Hitler?
Kai Weiss is an autistic toaster strudel. EDP is a beluga whale, and Hitler's a woman. Koda, I agree with you. Vortex is likely transphobic, and that was out of pocket for him to say. But people do and say mean shit to people they don't like all the time. That doesn't mean that they hold those values or views.
I mean, I guess not, but Koda isn't exactly a mind reader, so it's not like she would know about Vortex's actual views. Like, saying transphobic stuff, regardless of real beliefs in general, is kind of, you know, a bad thing, even by your own standards. God, I constantly have to point out the obvious in my commentaries. This is my personal 1984. Wait a second, I just put a meme in my video. Now I cannot be taken seriously, no!
Stop bringing gender politics into this. I didn't. You guys did. You guys brought up gender and pronouns into this by misgendering and attacking Carmen for her gender identity.
We didn't. Vortex did. Vortex went out of his way to say out-of-pocket transphobic things to set off Carmen, because what is Vortex? A troll. Does that mean he's a good one? Of course not.
This point just reeks of semantics. Like, yeah, Vortex is the only one who said transphobic things, and Koda did technically say you guys, meaning that she's referring to more than one person, but it was still your video. It was still in your video. Not everyone is gonna get the memo that there is a troll segment in a video that is mostly serious. And you even said that Vortex isn't even a good troll, and yet you still kept his segment in the video anyway. I am going to lose my mind. Oh my god. I guess another thing Kumo doesn't believe in is removing what is unnecessary. You don't get to pin all the blame on Vortex for something that was in your finished product. That's just dumb.
I know given my 3-hour debate with Akumu, respect and empathy are hard concepts to grasp for transphobes, but if
you severely lost that debate with Akumu, and if there's anyone on the internet I know of that's more delusional than Carmen Rider, it's you.
Minor nitpick, but the editing here is absolute garbage because you cut off Koda as she's about to begin a new sentence, and it honestly comes off as really jarring. Also, see, Kumo, using the word nitpicking correctly isn't actually that hard after all.
Akumu isn't transphobic. We weren't transphobic. The only transphobic person on the video that I know was transphobic was Vortex. He's made it very clear in public and in private that he doesn't like trans people of all kinds, non-binary and everything.
So essentially, Vortex isn't just a troll, and the transphobia displayed in the video really was his real beliefs.
People do and say mean shit to people they don't like all the time. That doesn't mean that they hold those values or views.
This point is now null. I want to die.
And I might have let all of your fuckery slide right here if this was directed at Vortex, if this video might have just been about Vortex.
But it's still your video! You chose to put it into the final product, despite saying that you're not transphobic. She can still partially put the blame on you. Koda's video can't simply just be on Vortex when it's on your channel. Also, it can't simply be on Vortex since she talked about Janky earlier, and she'll talk about some other people in your video as well. But no. Quality control doesn't exist. Quality control never existed. This is literally just excuses to commentary.
Y'all don't want a gender debate, just call her Carmen and don't use pronouns at all.
Koda, if you would have waited just a little bit longer to actually do this, we would have had your little gender debate and this would have gone more smoothly for all of us. But you started your autistic little transphobia crusade literally when the video had just dropped. My video hadn't even been up for 5 hours and you already started with your bullshit. You could have maybe gave it a week, 2 weeks, a month. I would have respected if you waited at least a month. But no, you had to drop your video literally the next day.
Okay, so now you're just being arbitrary. She doesn't have to wait for a debate with you. In fact, she never wanted a debate with you in the first place. She should be able to publish a commentary without you forcing a standard on her that she clearly doesn't agree with. By the way, and I'm sorry for getting nitpicky here, but why are you putting the chicken dance on screen? There is literally no reason for this. All it's doing is making it harder to pay attention to what you're saying.
Or just use they, them. And Kumo, you left this in the video, so this is just as much on you as it is for
Kumo, disregarding the fact that this person is a separate entity and you have no control over the words that come out of their mouth, you are fully responsible for the transphobic statements they said that may have offended me. Koda, when I chose to invite Vortex onto the project, I was already scraping the bottom of the barrel. Some of the creators you're taking issue with weren't even my first picks, as a lot of the people I wanted to have on this video were too busy bitching about other things and they couldn't be bothered. Upon reviewing Vortex's segment, I wish he would have actually put effort into it. I wish he would have actually dug into the files I sent him, got some receipts.
Okay, so I've been saying quality control doesn't exist as a joke, but now I'm almost convinced that you really don't believe in it.
I don't know, maybe even came to me for any sort of fucking guidance when making his segment. And like I said, I don't endorse any of the outlandish shit he said. But if I had removed his segment from my video, he would have had no reason to promote it.
Ah yes, the perfect defense for transphobia. I want this guy to promote my work. This is not an argument. It doesn't change how Vortex's segment was lazy, transphobic, and didn't add anything. In fact, this just comes off as desperate for attention, since you wanted a guy with a larger following than you to promote the video.
I gave him a court to get him on his feet.
Now, immediately, the question on everyone's mind is, who's Class Edgelord? Instead, I say, it's one of Carmen's fans.
I can't tell if you're presenting the subject or if this is a critique. Jokun literally explained who Class Edgelord is at the beginning of his, so if you're trying to imply that that segment had no direction whatsoever, then you're full of shit. But if not, I digress.
Actually, she was giving an explanation for who Class Edgelord is to her audience, since that ties into the point that she's about to make.
Next question is, why is Jokun talking about one of Carmen's fans in a video about Carmen Rider?
Is paying attention to the video so hard?
The answer? I don't know.
Oh my god, this is why I think Neko Koda is just terminally brain dead, because Neko Koda needs us to connect the dots for her every single time. Wouldn't it just kind of make sense to give you a little perspective on people that Carmen surrounds herself with? A little bit of perspective on the people that watch. Maybe an example of someone that's just as degenerate as Carmen. And the only unnecessary thing about this segment is that I was hoping people would recognize Class Edgelord if he decided to show up in the comments.
But what do we really need to know what Carmen's fans are like? Not really, since they don't impact the content that she makes. It's like if I criticized a series because the fandom sucks. That wouldn't really accomplish anything. So this is just excess information, I guess. And though there is still some stuff left, it's mostly just arguments that I've already touched upon, like this isn't serious, so I'm gonna pull the plug here. Honestly, I don't really have much to say left besides actually trying to debunk the video instead of going, LOL, this is why it is. But yeah, you can click off the video now.